And South Africa's left-wing opposition launched rallies under heavy security on Monday in a bid to force out President Cyril Ramaphosa over his handling of the country's ailing economy and crippling energy crisis. The Economic Freedom Fighters Party, led by Julius Malema, has stated that the objective of a national shutdown in South Africa has just begun, even as the state announced the arrest of 57 people accused of vandalism and engaging in illegal action. Well, now we can hear directly from a South African journalist, that is Masechaba Sepularo. She is a senior reporter at Jacaranda FM in Pretoria, South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on NTV. If you will, just describe the day in South Africa today from a journalist's point of view. What was it like when you focused on the protesters' behavior and the police's reactions?
Good evening to you and your viewers at NTV. The morning started off after a few sporadic acts of violence, or rather clashes, between the police officers and supporters of the EFF national shutdown who had gathered in downtown Johannesburg as part of the night vigil in the build-up to the much publicized national shutdown, where a couple of people were arrested and however were later released in the morning. But otherwise, the protest took place in various parts of the country. However, the EFF's leader, Julius Malema, was to meet about 3,000, if not more, protesters who had met at the Church Square in Pretoria and made their way then to the presidential residence. I must state that beforehand, the EFF leadership had not disclosed where their end destination would be and were rather cagey with regards to the details of how the protesters would be moving through the various parts of the cities which they had occupied. They had started gathering around midnight in various parts of the country. But in terms of their behavior, the EFF's leader, Julius Malema, had congratulated the EFF supporters who participated in today's national shutdown for going against the narrative that there would be violence and looting, which has been what informed the large number of police officers and even the South African National Defence Force who had come out to protect national key points. We saw a couple of them outside the High Court in Pretoria, and if I may add a bit of context, that's precisely where the UDM and 18 other organizations had their case against the state and ESCOM to have the crippling energy crisis declared unconstitutional was taking place just meters away from where EFF supporters were gathering. The common theme across all these protests is the call for President Cyril Ramaphosa to resign because of what Julius Malema says is his failure to govern this country, is his failure to find a solution to the crippling energy crisis, which has had rather dire effects on the economy, right, and has resulted in the loss of jobs as well as other many issues, including the increasing cost of living here in South Africa.
Masechaba, sounds like a contrast to what we witnessed here in various parts of the country today. But are these demonstrations making a difference? What impact are we seeing? And what do you believe is the way forward?
Well, it depends who you speak to with regards to the impact of the national shutdown that was hosted by the EFF today. The EFF themselves have called this a resounding success. They have been supported by leaders coming from other political formations as well as trade unions such as SAFTU. We've had leaders from the African Transformation Movement. We know that that leader of the party, Vuyo Zungula, is one of the persons who spearheaded that issue of having the Phala Phala farm gate matter that is plaguing President Cyril Ramaphosa with regards to the dollars that were found, or rather were stolen from his Phala Phala farm, investigated. And with all these political organizations there congratulating participants with regards to how they participated and conducted themselves in the march, and saying that, in fact, this is actually the beginning of many more shutdowns to come until President Cyril Ramaphosa resigns. They've also likened it to the period where former President Jacob Zuma himself was under quite a lot of public scrutiny, and there were resounding calls for him to step down. The EFF taking credit for that and saying that they are able and capable of doing it again. again, and they will not let go until President Cyril Ramaphosa resigns, because he has not been an available leader in this country. With regards to what happens in the way forward, again, there has not been a clear plan or stipulation of what will happen next. However, the sentiment is that South Africans are tired and will demonstrate in the 2024 elections. We know that we have our general elections next year, and will demonstrate with their vote. The call then is for them to vote against the return of the ANC to power.
All right, thank you so much. We are experiencing similar sentiments here in Kenya, but we will be keeping close tabs on the developments there in South Africa. Masechaba Sefularo, thank you so much for joining us live on NTV, coming to us from Pretoria in South Africa. She is a senior reporter at Jacaranda FM.